But first, Trump in charge. That's the focus of tonight's angle. All right, he commanded the room for over an hour on complex matters of foreign and domestic policy, on trade, on regulatory matters. And he's already announcing huge new foreign investment in the United States. And that's going to create jobs and, of course, boost our GDP. But the media's take on Trump today was, well, more proof that they've learned nothing.
One of the biggest things that stood out to me from that press conference, from moments when Trump got out there before he even started taking questions, is the level of anger.
He's really agitated.
He had a long list of grievances. This should be someone who is upbeat and happy to come in, but he is still full of grievances.
Oh, that's what they took from today? That's it? These people are as clueless as they were when they thought that Taylor Swift and Good Vibes and $1 billion could drag Kamala across the finish line. If Trump was anything today, he was Trump. Confident, determined, candid, and yeah, unafraid to call it as he sees it. If you were looking for optimism, he offered plenty of that today, too.
We are at the beginning of a great, beautiful golden age of business. And I think we're also at a golden age of common sense. Great respect is being shown to our country again. And we have a great country, but we have to run it properly. It's going to be run properly.
And again, unlike Biden, unlike Harris, Trump took questions from reporters. He didn't hesitate to take questions. Most of the reporters, by the way, who never gave him a chance 4 years ago.
On the campaign trail, you vowed to bring down the prices at grocery stores very fast.
Yeah, we will do it fast.
But then you recently told Time Magazine that bringing down prices would be very hard. So what can the American people expect when you get into office?
It's always hard to bring down prices when somebody else has screwed something up like they did. But we'll bring them down. We'll get them down. Energy is going to bring down prices. I think you're going to see some pretty drastic price reductions.
So finally, we have a president who is focused on putting the American people first, not the global climate control freaks who've dominated us under Biden. But on every issue today, issue after issue, he was clear. Other countries aren't going to dictate our policies, and just because a policy has been in place for decades doesn't mean he won't be open to changing that policy, even when our allies are concerned. Because when Trump is president, no one, not even our friends, are going to take advantage of us.
We are not treated well, as you know, by Canada. Canada is subsidized to the tune of about $200 billion a year. They have a very small military. They rely on our military. It's all fine, but, you know, they got to pay for that. It's very unfair.
Yeah, well, it's refreshing. It's refreshing to hear a president standing up for America's interests again, taking a pragmatic approach to protecting the American economy. But again, of course, the backbenchers who literally missed Trump's rise in 2016 and then again in 2024, always underestimating him, could only resort to their old playbook.
That was a trailer. That was an hour-long trailer for the next 4 years, in that he tells a lot of lies.
And he tells a lot of lies. Now, this from a media that doggedly refused to report on what was obvious for 4 years. Speaking of lies, well, that, look, we all saw Biden was not in charge, all the big defenders of democracy. We didn't have a president for the last 4 years. And we certainly didn't have someone living at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue who was mentally fit for the job. So when they accuse Trump of lying, I say consider the source. The fact is, Trump was speaking inconvenient truths today. Truths about issues that the talking heads don't bother to even think about. As usual, he's 5 steps ahead of them.
The Panama Canal is vital to our country. It's being operated by China. China. And we gave the Panama Canal to Panama. We didn't give it to China. And they've abused it. They've abused that gift. It should have never been made.
Well, Trump was, again, refreshingly un-Washington, when he didn't even shy away from the subject, despite Jimmy Carter's lying in state today. Remember, he was the president who presided over the handover.
I liked him as a man. I disagreed with his policy. So, hey, he thought giving away the Panama Canal was a good thing. I think it cost him the election. This was a question that was asked of me. I didn't bring it up. I didn't want to bring up the Panama Canal because of Jimmy Carter's death. But people don't bring it up.
Well, it wasn't about disrespecting Carter, and the press knew exactly what it was saying when it brought it up. It's about putting our security first. Now, remember Congressman Mike Gallagher? He was then chair of the Select Committee on the CCP. He laid it all out in stark terms, saying in 2023, a visitor to the Panama Canal might think they were in China. Ports at both ends of the canal are managed by companies from the People's Republic of China, while Huawei dominates the country's telecom system. Yeah, pretty important, don't you think? Since 2018, Panama has been a member of China's Belt and Road Initiative as well, and Xi's plan to dominate all global trade is part of this. So do we really want China dominating a canal that's central to our trade? If they take control of enough of Panama, could China ultimately use it as a station for its military? These are valid questions. But again, even raising this issue is somehow an affront to official Washington. How dare you stand up for the United States? You're threatening the global order, Donald Trump. And if Trump can make a deal for strategically important Greenland, why wouldn't that be a good thing?
We need Greenland for national security purposes. I've been told that for a long time, long before I even ran. I mean, people have been talking about it for a long time. I'm talking about protecting the free world. You look at, you don't even need binoculars. You look outside, you have China ships all over the place. You have Russian ships all over the place. We're not letting that happen.
Again, this is something that set the media's hair on fire, but Trump's right. Back in August, a piece in the Harvard International Review explained how China has tried to take hold of Greenland's iron and uranium mining industries, and even has Russia involved in the project to establish what they're calling a polar Silk Road. That would create Arctic dominance. So why is this never mentioned in the media's coverage of Greenland and Trump's desire to perhaps make a deal for it? Well, I'll say it's for the same reason they never address the fact that NATO is still taking advantage of U.S. taxpayers.
NATO's taking advantage of us. And one of the problems that I have, and I've said it openly, I said it to President Zelensky, Europe is in for a tiny fraction of the money that we're in. Why are we in for billions and billions of dollars more money than Europe?
Excellent question. Why? And it's a question that makes all the right people uncomfortable, as does Trump's approach to dealing with Russia and his desire to end this horrible war that Biden's incompetence set the stage for.
Somewhere along the line, Biden said, no, they should be able to join NATO. Well, then Russia has somebody right on their doorstep, and I could understand their feeling about that. But there were a lot of mistakes made in that negotiation. And when I heard the way that Biden was negotiating, I said, you're going to end up in a war. And it turned out to be a very bad war. And it could escalate.
Trump, the peacemaker, wants it to end. And of course, he's spot on. And in response, the press tiptoed toward Russia collusion again.
He took Vladimir Putin's side about Ukraine and NATO, saying, I understand why Russia would be mad that some country on its doorstep would join NATO.
Let me just stop right there, John.
Yeah.
Just that quote alone.
No. Russia's mad, and I understand that.
That Russia invaded a
democratic nation within Europe.
And he understands why.
Imagine that. A leader who actually tries to convey an understanding of both sides to reach a peace deal. It's called negotiation. It's called laying the groundwork for a deal. Has Biden tried this? Of course not. He's not capable of it. Biden hasn't even been able to negotiate the release of hostages from the Hamas terrorists. He's never scared Hamas. They're not worried about Biden. But about Trump? Oh, yeah, they are.
When you say all hell will be
Before I
paid,
take
or
office.
all hell must be paid if they don't release the hostages.
If they're not back by the time I get into office, all hell will break out in the Middle East.
Can you elaborate?
And it will not be good for Hamas, and it will not be good, frankly, for anyone. All hell will break out. I don't have to say anymore, but that's what it is.
Yeah, he's not going to give you battle plans, but he's conveying his point, and I bet Hamas gets it. Now, Trump displayed this kind of strength, some would call it bravado, but I think it's pragmatic, throughout the entire press conference, just as he has during his entire life. It's why he won the election, It's why the media hates him. So let's be clear what's really going on here. They're the one, they accuse him of being angry. They're livid that he's going to be back in office. They can't they can't get past themselves in their own anger. And apparently the press and some Democrats, most Democrats, expect our leaders to just roll over and to submit to the demands of the elites. And any resistance is just met with lies and smears.
It's dangerously similar to the kind of leadership that we see in places like Russia or Hungary or other places where we have strongmen and oligarchs making decisions as opposed to the American people. And that's often accompanied by not just corruption, but also oppression of people.
They're back to the same thing. He's a dictator. He just won the election. And the Boston Globe columnist, oh no, he's just an autocrat. It's not going to work anymore. They've learned nothing. The American people saw through this. That's why Trump's going to be back in office in just a week or so.
Trump's going on a shopping spree. He's got his eye on a country, an island, and a canal. But before he whips out the checkbook, he's rebranding bodies of water.
So we're going to be changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, which has a beautiful ring that covers a lot of territory. The Gulf of America, what a beautiful name. And it's appropriate. It's appropriate.
Congress is already drafting a bill to rename the Gulf. And why not? Democrats renamed Columbus Day. After that, it's time to buy some real estate.
The Panama Canal is a disgrace, what took place at the Panama Canal. We gave it away for $1. But the deal was that, you know, they have to treat us fairly. They don't treat us fairly. They charge more for our ships than they charge for ships of other countries. They charge more for our Navy than they charge for navies of other countries. They laugh at us because they think we're stupid, but we're not stupid anymore.
The canal just jacked up prices, and since our ships are the biggest and use it the most, we're the hardest hit. We're the victim. Like Ronald Reagan said about the canal, we bought it, we paid for it, we built it. The least they could do is give us a discount. But it's not just Panama that needs to get it together.
Canada and the United States, that would really be something. You get rid of that artificially drawn line, and you take a look at what that looks like, and it would also be much better for national security. Don't forget, we basically protect Canada. But here's the problem with Canada. So many friends up there. I love the Canadian people. They're great. But we're spending hundreds of billions a year to protect it. We have more than they have. We don't need anything. So why are we losing $200 billion a year and more to protect Canada? And I said that to, as I called him, Governor Trudeau. I said, listen, what would happen if we didn't subsidize you?
Governor Trudeau stepped down yesterday. Like Biden, his party turned on him. He's not running for re-election. And he's being roasted on late-night TV.
Now I want to see you eat it.
Excuse me? The hamburger.
The Big Mac, the president of all burgers. I'm going to make you eat it like a dog with no hands.
Mon ami, I come to you not on bended knee, but as an equal.
30% tariff.
My father taught me to
50% tariff.
Okay, we Canadians are a hearty lot.
60% tariff.
For Canada! I'm a hungry little puppy. I'm so hungry for my puppy chow.
Trump already picked a replacement for Trudeau.
I have so many great friends. One of them is the great one, Wayne Gretzky. I said, run for prime minister, you'll win it'll take 2 seconds. But he said, well, am I going to run for prime minister or governor? You tell me. I said, I don't know. Let's make it governor. I like it better.
Gretzky has 4 Stanley Cups. Trudeau, 0. It's not even a question. But the governor's trying to hold on to his dignity. Today he said there isn't a snowball's chance in hell that Canada would become part of the United States. Other Canadian politicians are making counteroffers.
Hey, Donald, have we got a deal for you? You think we want to be the 51st state? Nah, but maybe California would like to be the 11th province. How about it? California? Oregon? Washington?
You know something? To the president, I'll make him a counteroffer. How about if we buy Alaska, and we'll throw in Minnesota and Minneapolis at the same time?
No deal. But if you want to take Minneapolis off our hands, she's yours. She's kind of, you know. We're going to interview that Canadian politician in a few minutes. Make him an offer he can't refuse. But before Trump scoops up Canada, he's scoping out Greenland.
Well, we need Greenland for national security purposes. I've been told that for a long time, long before I even ran. I mean, people have been talking about it for a long time. You have approximately 45,000 people there. People really don't even know if Denmark has any legal right to it. But if they do, they should give it up because we need it for national security. That's for the free world. I'm talking about protecting the free world. You look at, you don't even need binoculars. You look outside, you have China ships all over the place. You have Russian ships all over the place. We're not letting that happen.
Trump saying we need Greenland to protect Denmark and the rest of the free world. How does Denmark need it more than we do? Denmark should want us to have Greenland. It's in everyone's interest. Imagine if something bad happened to Europe and it was because the United States didn't have Greenland. How do you think Denmark would feel then? Today, Trump, Force One, took an expeditionary flight to Greenland, delivering an American dignitary to stake a diplomatic claim.
We're here in Nuuk, Greenland. Just incredible scenery. Super cool stuff.
The people of Greenland were delighted to see Don Jr.
Okay, we're here in Greenland with Don Jr.
Everyone wants to be on TikTok.
What do you guys think of America?
Great.
You love America and you love Trump?
Yes, of course.
The youth of Greenland, Don.
We're hearing a lot of it, guys. We're hearing a lot of it.
47 even called in to greet our new family members.
I just want to say that it's a very special place. It needs security for itself, but it also needs security very much for the world. The location really, you see the people and the ships sailing around, and they're not the right ships, and they're not the ships you want to know about. So we need security, and our country needs it, and the whole world needs it.
Yes.
You're so strategically located.
Yeah.
So it's really imperative.
Denmark just doesn't see the potential in Greenland that Trump does. He knows what Greenland is capable of, and Greenland will never be able to achieve what it's capable of under the thumb of the Danes. And the Greenlandians are excited, but the Danish are not.
I will make it very clear that seen with the eyes of the Danish government, Greenland is for the Greenlandic people. It is a proud people, a language and culture that is their own. Greenland is not for sale.
That was the Prime Minister of Denmark, speaking softly and carrying no stick. Denmark can be at the negotiating table, but it's really not their call. It's up to the people of Greenland. If they hold a vote to come with us, what's Denmark going to do about it? We can do things the easy way or the hard way. And sometimes Trump prefers the hard way. The King of Denmark is posturing too. He changed the royal coat of arms so that the polar bear, which represents Greenland, is much bigger. There are also a couple of shirtless guys holding clubs. The king made them bigger too. Is that a threat? I hope not.
Can you assure the world that as you try to get control of these areas, you are not going to use military or economic coercion?
No.
We're not at the stage of gunboat diplomacy yet. We're just window shopping. The president-elect's a real estate tycoon, and he's in a deal-making mood. The strategy is to get a better deal for America and create a North American security, energy, and trade network that keeps everyone safe, rich, and happy. Don't you want to be safe, rich, and happy? Geopolitical strategist and friend of the show, Peter Zion, says America is not a tiny European power looking to gobble up large chunks of land to feed their pride and empire. We're just looking for strategic islands and choke points, not to occupy, but to project power from. Think of Greenland as a cold Mexico with barely any population, right off the coast of Maine. Greenland has minerals that China's trying to mine. We're not crazy about that. And we'd like to expand our basing there to compete against Russia in the Arctic and elsewhere. Only problem is the Scandinavians aren't going to love this move. And we need their help in the Baltics and the North Sea. So we're going to have to wheel and deal. What about Panama? I don't really want to have to occupy a poor, corrupt country run by cartels, but I don't like getting ripped off with high fees every time we sail through. So maybe this flex will force them to drop the price. I used to love the idea of gobbling up Canada. Vast energy reserves, doubling our geography. We'd never lose another Winter Olympics. But do we really want to add that many liberals to our population? Even if we split it into two states, a conservative West and a liberal East, because Eastern Canada is so populated, it'd be an electoral disaster for Republicans. No thanks. But the Canadians need to shape up when it comes to trade, energy, and timber. I'd still like to add stars to our flag, and Canada does seem ripe for the picking. Maybe we just take Saskatchewan and Alberta, because the fact that they don't want to become part of America makes me want to make them.
Tonight, we begin with a preview into what will be, frankly, an unpredictable, exciting, busy, and transformative next 4 years. Buckle up. It's going to be a great ride. President-elect Donald Trump in front of a podium. Imagine this, a president. No scripts, no notes, no pre-selected questions, just bold, out-of-the-box ideas that you usually won't get from the D.C. swamp. Big plans, a commitment to put America first. Our nation's enemies and allies have all been put on notice. Take a look.
If those hostages aren't back, I don't want to hurt your negotiation. If they're not back by the time I get into office, all hell will break out in the Middle East.
Now, Steve Witkoff, who was in that video, he will join us coming up later in the program. Also, more on Trump's maximum pressure campaign against the terrorists that are now holding American citizens in captivity. They have since October 7, 2023. Free the hostages or there will be hell to pay. But first, more from today's wide-ranging press conference, including a big new plan to rebrand the Gulf of, well, while holding our neighbors to the south and to the north accountable. Take a look. You decide.
We're going to be changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, which has a beautiful ring that covers a lot of territory. The Gulf of America, what a beautiful name. And it's appropriate. It's appropriate. And Mexico has to stop allowing millions of people to pour into our country. They can stop them. And we're going to put very serious tariffs on Mexico and Canada, because Canada, they come through Canada too. And the drugs that are coming through are at record numbers, record numbers.
Could you imagine the legacy media today watching that, probably having collectively a massive coronary? Oh, the Gulf of America. Actually, it does have a nice ring to it. Donald Trump, he was only getting started. Here was the president-elect's message to Panama, home to the critically important Panama Canal, now under the influence of China, according to many reports. Take a look.
The Panama Canal is a disgrace, what took place at the Panama Canal. So the Panama Canal is under discussion with them right now. They violated every aspect of the agreement, and they morally violated it also. And they want our help because it's leaking and not in good repair. And they want us to give $3 billion to help fix it. I said, well, why don't you get the money from China? Because China's basically taken it over. China's at both ends of the Panama Canal. China's running the Panama Canal. They've overcharged our ships, overcharged our Navy. And then when they need repair money, they come to the United States to put it up. We get nothing. Those days are over.
Donald Trump, he also has big plans for another strategic area of the world after first floating an idea to buy mineral-rich Greenland from Denmark a few years back. Well, Trump's vision now could actually be a reality. Today, Donald Trump Jr. visited that island to share his father's plans. Let's take a look.
This looks like the runway Santa Claus would land at.
Guys, we're here in Nook, Greenland. This is the founder, 1721. That yellow house with the red top, that was his original spot. That's where he moved. This is where it all started out here. Just incredible scenery. Super cool stuff.
Don Jr. will join us with more details on his trip to Greenland. That's coming up. But first, at today's presser, Donald Trump also had a message for the current president, Joe Biden, and his plan to destroy America's oil and gas industry. You know, that which would make America the single most energy-rich country on the face of the earth, and his continued attempts to sabotage the incoming administration. Take a look.
They take 625 million acres and they essentially landmark it so you can't ever drill there again. Well, we're going to be drilling soon. Couldn't believe the size of it. I mean, you put down a map and put this up, it's just massive. And remember that that's worth probably, I mean, I've had estimates, $40 to $50 trillion. That's more than our national debt. Essentially, he's thrown it away. He's thrown it away. He's taken $50 trillion. So if we owe $35 trillion, he's taken $50 trillion of value and thrown it right out the window.
And guess what? Trump will take it back. You'll pay less for gasoline. Diesel prices will come down. That means the cost of transporting everything you buy and every store you go to will also go down. That will help inflation. That will help the economy. That will lower interest rates. And that will put Americans on a better financial footing. The president-elect also addressing Biden's plan to sell off border wall materials for mere pennies on the dollar in his final days in office. Really, Joe? Are you that bitter? Are you that angry? Are you that petty? Are you that small? Because you know Trump would buy a new wall, and we'd all have to pay for it. Take a look.
We won the case on the wall. You know, they tried to sell the wall for 5 cents on the dollar, by the way. And we had, fortunately, a judge that stopped that. But they were already discarding the wall. And fortunately, we had a very smart judge that stopped it cold. I think he called for an investigation, too, and he should. But think of it. They were selling the wall that was exactly the wall that the Border Patrol wanted. That was designed by them. Steel, concrete, rebar, exactly as they want. Very, very heavy steel, very powerful steel, hard to cut.
This is why you, the American people, this is why you went to the polls in record numbers. This is why America elected Donald Trump. His energy, creativity, his out-of-the-box thinking, his commitment to fight for the American people. That means all of you, 24/7, 365. He's not going to be on the beach in Delaware every weekend. And even though Donald Trump is not back in office yet, well, the wins, they're starting to pile up. At the presser, Donald Trump announcing a new $20 billion investment from a company out of Dubai. Now, this will create thousands and thousands of high-paying career American jobs in the Midwest and the Sun Belt. And more good news tonight. Facebook announcing an end to its censorship campaign, shuttering the so-called fact-checking mechanisms on all of Meta's platforms. Now, this has been building now for some time. You might recall the letter that Zuckerberg wrote to Jim Jordan. It was about a year and a half ago. And he said he regrets giving in to the pressure from the Biden administration on issues involving COVID and Hunter's laptop, and won't happen again. Make no mistake, we are on the precipice of a new day in America. Freedom, justice for all is making a comeback. Equal justice under the law, making a comeback. Equal application of our laws, making a comeback. Restoring the FBI, our intelligence community, to their former greatness. That'll make a comeback, too. And guess what? Forget the doubters, the naysayers, the Trump haters, and the media mob. They are irrelevant because legacy media is dead, and right now the sky's the limit.
Who's your daddy? Love saying that. Happy Tuesday, everyone. So President-elect Trump said he wants to change the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. But that's not all. He also wants to change New Mexico to even better Mexico. As for Canada, he plans on renaming it North Dakota. He also suggested changing the Bermuda Triangle to that big, beautiful, sexy triangle in the gorgeous blue Atlantic. Finally, he wants to change Samoa to Thin Mints. That was really stupid, but I'm glad you laughed.
That's a good one.
So New York City saw a staggering 146% spike in felony assaults by repeat offenders. They also saw a 146% increase in assaults with spikes. I'm leaving it in. I don't care. Meanwhile, New York City's transit chief claims that fears of subway crime are all in people's heads. Also in people's heads, spikes. See, it was worth it, you jerk-offs. A group of feral hogs has been terrorizing Irving, Texas, tearing up yards and rooting through garbage. Well, I had no idea The View was filmed in Texas. Yeah, we're back to that. A massive tuna sold for $1.3 million at a Japanese auction. It's the best money I ever spent, said one man.
He's a friend.
Yeah. 700 former employees are suing McDonald's because their managers demanded sex in exchange for extra hours. Well, one thing's for sure, the next time I go to McDonald's, I'm going to ask them to hold the special sauce. I know. Disgusting. Disgusting. Speaking of McDonald's, they're the latest corporation to roll back DEI policies. It's a shocker, given they were the first fast food place to hire a person of color. Finally, a Canadian woman experienced rapid breast growth, going from a B cup to a triple G. What? Due to an adverse reaction to the Pfizer COVID shot. I think we have a picture of the woman. I'm back. Took me 2 days.
We tried.
So it's clear that MAGA may be the most consequential political movement in a century, but right now we're experiencing another movement. And unlike MAGA, this one really stinks.
Biden's last PM.
Yeah. You won't see that on the Faulkner Focus. So, he's crapping on us, okay? Follow me. You saw that Biden just released 11 detainees with suspected al-Qaeda ties from Gitmo, including 2 of bin Laden's bodyguards. I believe we have a picture of the bodyguards right here. But wait, as Joy Behar once said after her doctor sawed off a dozen skin tags, there's more. Joe just banned all drilling offshore, and it has nothing to do with Epstein's Island.
Oh, God.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, Joe. Let's make energy prices skyrocket when people are already having a hard time economically. He understands the nation like P. Diddy understands the age of consent. In yet another bold move guaranteed to restore American greatness, the White House decided to ban natural gas-fired water heaters. And here I thought these dip love to gaslight. But I don't understand why Joe despises fossil fuels, since that's what Joe's going to be when they cremate him. This on top of Biden's commutation of federal death row inmates, ensuring that taxpayers are on the hook for the lifelong care and feeding of murderers and child rapists. Democrats. They look at murderers on death row like starving children in Africa. For just a few dollars a month, you can keep them fed and clothed. I'm surprised they don't send us a picture of them every month and a letter telling us how well they're doing. Dear Greg, I only shanked 2 guards today, and me and the boys are hosting a toilet wine tasting in Cell Block C. Think about it. The money that would go to feeding your kid goes to feed a heinous criminal. But enough about Liz Cheney's pension. Then there's the pardons. including the one he promised us was never coming. If you believe that, I've got an MSNBC to sell you. We already talked about his medals of freedom. What a joke. What's next? Hunter getting a Purple Heart for getting crabs in the Navy?
Oh, my God.
What's going on here? First, Biden and the Democrats are truly bad at everything, including losing. They lost, and instead of maybe asking, hey, did we misread the room? They decided the problem isn't them, it's the room. And so what do? They trash the room, i.e. our country. They're like the bitter ex you just dumped, who keys your car, poisons the fish in your koi pond, burns all your copies of Penthouse letters. It's the last time I date anyone from Outnumbered. And like any bitter ex, they believe we just didn't understand how much they cared about us.
And we really didn't show the kind of empathy and concern to average, or show enough of it to average working families who didn't realize how much we had done and how much we care for them.
Really, Penguin? What have you done to show that you cared? Release criminals, destroy the border, defend the butchery of kids? The last time somebody cared about me that much, I was on Valtrex for 3 years. You want to know the worst part? We still don't know who's calling the shots. You think Joe actually knew who the killers were? Whose sentences he commuted? You think he really knew what he was signing when these orders on drilling came through? No, he thought he was ordering tapioca pudding for dessert. Right now, the White House is essentially a bunch of sullen brats fighting to get Daddy to sign a will that gives them all the goodies they ever wanted. Out of anger, arrogance, and disbelief that they didn't outsmart all of America, they're grabbing what they can as they go out the door like a smash and grab at Kay Jewelers. Now, they could reflect on what they did wrong and do better, but they're not interested in changing, only destroying. And by doing so, they remind Americans why they went with the other guy. It's quite a disparity. In this transition, it's a contrast unlike any I've ever seen. Have you? The incoming guy is determined to do the job for Americans, to reciprocate your trust in him. You defended him, you fought for him, now he's doing what you expect him to do. The outgoing guy, he's a cardboard corpse, employed by unnamed radicals, not to save America, but to punish it. And you, the American voter, have no impact on their desires. But wasn't that always the case with Democrats? It's just that now everyone sees it.
Let's welcome tonight's guest. She was the perfect defense lawyer because she was always appealing. Co-host of Outnumbered, everything about Joe. He never has to worry about reading fan mail. Comedian Joe Mackey. She's expanding and demanding. New York Times bestselling author and Fox News contributor Cat 2. And he's like a mobility scooter, versatile, sturdy, and old ladies want to ride him. New York Times bestselling author and comedian, former NWA world champion, Emily, doesn't it feel like Joe Biden's White House is like an ex that is like just burning everything down because of the rejection?
Yes, it does.
Thank you.
It's so patently obvious. In a way, look, this sounds terrible, but in a way, I sort of like it because for the 0.0001% of the population that maybe was undecided, that wasn't persuaded, that didn't see the light yet, can't they see the self-serving destruction that is only because he has said, I don't care about anyone anymore. I only care about myself. But the reality is that hallmarked his entire administration, his entire service. And for anyone that was watching, the full tenure of service.
Yeah.
Like, frankly, all we are seeing is the filter come off, the frontal lobe being finally sort of decimated. But this guy served himself the whole time. He always had a chip on his shoulder. But now the thing that I feel also that I have a semblance of, like, all right, go ahead, have the tantrum. You know, you're watching the kid in the corner break the toys. Go ahead. Because I know that actual dad is going to come in and fix it. I have such faith and confidence in the people that President Trump have amassed, at the people that he is continuing to put in these positions, there is no way this final temper tantrum will have lasting results. Even with the Gulf madness, the drilling madness, there will be a way to restore America back to normal. So he can go ahead and have his tantrum all he wants, because come January 20th, then we're coming back.
Well, I certainly hope you're right, but that's probably a false hope. I'm kidding. Joe, the point, who's doing this? You know, this is what kills me, is that the media now admits Joe's not in charge. Well, if Joe's not in charge, don't you want to know who's doing this stuff?
Greg, that's a great question. Before I get to it, I want a quick fact check on your monologue.
Yeah.
You said you used Valtrex for 3 years. That is a herpes suppression drug, which means you are ripe for an outbreak, my friend. No more wrestling me in the green room until you're back on the dose.
That's how we got it.
Okay, I should have mentioned that. But I think it might be Hunter Biden calling the shots right now. Like, who would ban oil heaters, you know, because they're always sweating?
Yes.
Someone who uses cocaine, maybe? But I'll say this. The fascinating aspect of all of this is that Joe Biden quit. We all know he didn't really quit, so he's acting like he got fired. And as someone who acts horribly when they get fired, I can relate to this totally. I'm like, I'm going to leave terrible reviews at this steakhouse. You're going to wish you never heard the name Axel Mackey. That was during my Beverly Hills Cop phase.
Did you really work at a steakhouse?
I did.
Really?
Yes, I was a waiter. Quite a good one, if you ask me.
I bet. But if you ask them, they'd say no.
They always wanted that the soda they asked for was diet because they were diabetic.
Wow, Kat, what a comparison. I'm much older than you, not by much, but I've never seen this kind of transition where it's like so stark and just like we're going from, it's almost like we're not going from a president to another president. We're going from a type of thinking or a type of living to another.
It's just hard for me to listen to Joe Biden at this point. I mean, it's been, not at this point, it's been hard for a while, but like when he was talking about the oil drilling, when he was like, you know, in balancing the many uses and benefits, I was like, yeah, you lost me there.
Yeah.
I don't think you did that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think you were balancing anything. I don't think he was in the library. I don't think he was looking at spreadsheets. I don't think he was like in the laboratory running tests. I think someone told him to say it. And why we're still wheeling him out there, and it's just none of it's really believable. And why do it? Because you can just flip it. It could just be flipped again.
Yeah. And he's not even bothering to, I don't know, hide the fact that he's going to destroy the place. That's why I think he's just not there.
No, he's certainly not. I'm starting to think that as well.
Yes, I think right now Jimmy Carter has more on the ball than him. And that's not a joke about Jimmy Carter, so send your letters to Joe Mackey.
Axel Mackey.
Tyrus, do you feel like Trump is starting in a deeper hole because of this?
No, because, well, here's the sad thing. Poor Joe never got to be president. His entire 4 years, someone else has been calling the shots. And he's cover. He's the shield.
Yeah.
Because to say with any degree of intelligence that look what Joe is doing to us after watching him for 3.5 years, you need to have your head examined because it's not him. And they don't understand because they weren't elected. They don't understand the job. So they sat around in their little meeting with their chai teas outside of a Starbucks and said, what we're going to do is we're going to shut down all the drilling with an executive order. And no one says, yeah, but the other guy can come in and just change it.
Yeah.
They don't think. It's like watching bad villains in the Austin Powers. Yeah. Like there's no Scott telling them, hey, this is stupid. They're just going to reverse it. No, you just don't get it, Carl.
All right. Let's move on then.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.